Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. When it comes to the micro games that I've got, of course, metagaming, task force games, SPI. I've got so many micro games to cover. I really almost didn't want to cover another company. However, it is kind of important because let's see how another company takes on the task. And there's a little bit of a completionist in me that would be like, oh boy, here's another company I might dive in and get everything of. However, this was definitely worth the plunge. What a great way to start it off with this company. I mean, this game has everything I like. It's going to have Sherwood Forest, the Sheriff of Nottingham, and of course the main topic. Today I'm going to be going over with you The Legend of Robin Hood by Operational Studies Group. So here we have turn one all set up and ready to go. There's supposed to be a King's Forester right here next to Robin Hood, but I'll correct that later. Now, Robin Hood's the only unit in the game right now, so it's going to be up to him about how he wants to take the game. But really, the Sheriff of Nottingham's up here, Sheriff Lincoln's over here, and Sir Guy is down here unrecruited. Only the Sheriff of Nottingham can recruit him, so he's going to have to make a jaunt down there sooner or later. But the thing is, does he go right away and do that, or does he go to actually kind of get next to these other leaders just to be there, just in case Robin Hood tries to recruit them, fails, and gets wounded? He could actually swoop in for an early bird victory right away. So he could do that, let Sheriff Lincoln come around, then get to these areas, and then the Sheriff of Nottingham can go get Sir Guy. That's a possibility right there. Or he could just ignore it altogether and just go right down to get Sir Guy, and then Sir Lincoln can come out. And it's interesting to mention that early on, with there's only 3 castles, so there's only 3 keeps to rob, and you can only rob a keep once, by the way, and they give Robin Hood 4 gold out of the treasury. However, Robin Hood, if he makes his moves right and catches these guys off guard while they're out of the castle, they make some quick work and get into the keeps pretty easily. Again, this really isn't made to make Robin Hood it's not hard for Robin Hood to do this. He's just got to be careful, not sloppy, and he'll get his gold. This first part of the game is a randomizer, but things crazy can still happen. All right, so fast forward to turn 4, and not really a lot's happened. Basically, the Sheriff of Nottingham kind of stayed on the road because these 2 nobles did come out, and he decided to protect them right along this road. Robin Hood definitely not bold enough to try to rob them yet. Just kind of was recruiting people and came down here and got Will Scarlet. Not right away, but he got him, and then it's one of the Merry Men. So then after that, a few turns transpired. Now the Sheriff of Nottingham is going to be getting Sir Guy on the next turn, while Sheriff Lincoln now decides to go up and keep protecting those. And by the way, if the nobles or the bishops make it off the board without being harassed, the sheriff gets 1 gold, okay, automatically. So that happens right there. So nothing crazy is going on yet, but that's about to change. All right, I just want to show you turn 8 here, just to give you an idea of how crazy things can get in this game right off the bat, where even though I definitely believe Robin Hood's going to have an easy time, if he gets unlucky or gets sloppy, he could actually lose the game right at the beginning. So here on turn 8, Robin Hood so far has done the basic recruitment strategy. Get as many leaders as he can and as many merry men as he can. Of course, you got to start with leaders before the merry men to a good degree, just because you need the command points to be able to lead them. If you don't have the command points, the merry men are still good. They may be on your side, but they're going to stay at home. While the Sheriff of Nottingham's forces have an implied leader with each unit, and they don't need a leader unit to go with them anywhere. So anyway, that was happening. But in the recruiting process, when it comes to Little John and Will Scarlet and maybe 2 others, Robin Hood actually needs to fight to honorably to prove his worth and such. And sometimes they'll just say, "Nah, you're not convincing me. I'm not being recruited." But sometimes Robin Hood can get wounded, which happens here in the case of Little John. Little John beat him down, and now he's wounded, which also means not only can he not fight or move, he can't escape either. So if it wasn't for the fact that the Sheriff Lincoln was just too far away, and down here, the Sheriff of Nottingham had gone after Sir Guy to recruit him, which is the only recruitment he needs to do. Okay, but I would assume that he wants to do that early because he's only got him and Sergeant Lincoln, and Prince John doesn't happen to get in here at the very latest turn 20, but probably only at the earliest turn 15. There is a random process with getting all these other personalities on the board, which I'll go over. But basically, he was unconscious and hurt here, so we ended up with this scenario, and Sheriff Lincoln missed it by one area, which gave enough time for Will Scarlet to come in, bounding in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we got this scenario right here. And the important thing here is with Will Scarlet coming in, he had, and there was another leader there, like 3 forces. And like I think I've mentioned, at most in one volley of battle, the most you're really going to lose is 3. Okay, it can happen to be more, but it's not likely. I mean, 2 to 3 is really the most obvious maximum that you would think. So as long as you could survive at least one round, you'll be able to escape, which needed to happen here. Okay, and it was a good exchange. Sheriff Lincoln lost a lot of forces, but both sides still had units when it was done. And then the next turn, obviously Will Scarlet did not initiate the battle. He said, "You can come to me." Sheriff Lincoln came in. There was an exchange, and then the next turn, Robin Hood was okay, and they bounced out. That's what happened on that turn there. And here we have, in contrast, simply 4 turns after that averted disaster here, and it looks like all of a sudden everything's coming up roses for Robin Hood. His forces are all on the board, practically have all the merry men. Robin Hood's going after maybe the last one on there. All the rest of them are out in stacks. One of the sheriffs is up for ransom right now in the local village. And Sir Guy, the Sheriff of Nottingham, is dead, by the way. He doesn't lose the game, though. Because of that, Sir Guy has got the only units he's got hiding away in a village near the Lincoln Castle, and he's going to slowly build up his forces over the next few turns, waiting for them all to repopulate. It looks like everything's going good for Robin Hood, and he's got most of the treasury right there. It's not going to be a problem for him to finish off his requirements for that. But that's when things really turn crazy, and the game ain't over yet. And here we have the final turn of the game, technically, in a technical sense, because it's turn 15. It looks like Robin Hood's got it. Sir Guy's here just amassing forces. The next 2 turns, he's going to get 2 pike units, so he's just going to get stronger. So I figure I just do a big attack, knowing that the merry men will come back on the board, and I just recruit them again. Mind you, his guys will be on the board again to his pikemen, but it'll be 4 turns later, and it'll just be better. Well, the thing is, after this is all said and done, I look up, Maid Marian's going to be coming on this turn, and I look up the thing about marriage, and of course, Maid Marian's got to be present in the same hex. Robin Hood's got to be in the same area. So does Alan a Dale and Friar Tuck. Unfortunately, Friar Tuck died in battle. No Friar Tuck, no marriage, game over. So the game has already been over. And then I played a few turns out after this just to see how things would go. And, because the Sheriff of Nottingham's forces would amass more units. And I figured out that, this is all going to be a chase for King Richard, though. Even if Maid Marian was married, then it's going to be about getting ready for King Richard. So there's going to be a mad dash to start recruiting everybody. and then spreading your forces out to kind of guess where King Richard's going to be and where the opposing forces is going to be. And there's probably going to be one final fight right around King Richard, and then if it ends prematurely and it's King Richard with whoever's left in the area, and that person's gonna win. And maybe reinforcements will make it, and maybe they won't. Maybe even after that, Maid Marian will be left alone, and maybe one of the forces will go capture her. And even if they do make it to King Richard, if Maid Marian's captured, then they got to go after Maid Marian. All kinds of shenanigans can still happen. And one thing that can also still happen is that the sheriff at this point can still actually tax his villages, and he can do this at the beginning of the game. But let's say, like right now, the treasury is where it's at, and now Robin Hood's not paying attention to the treasury. The two criteria of the treasury thing is Robin Hood either has to have 20 marks or have the sheriff down to 5 or less. Now, if he's got 20 marks, he's got 20 marks, that it's done. Okay, it's just done. But if he's only got like maybe, because the game only starts with the sheriff having 12 marks, period. Okay, and he probably shouldn't get any more unless he needs to. And why is that? Because even though he's losing at 5 or less, you don't want to just get marks for Robin Hood to steal, because then he'll get closer to 20. So what you do is once he gets all your 12, you just like, okay, that's done. But then when all this other shenanigans is happening, he could try to tax his villages and now put, have more than 5 gold marks, which means that the Robin Hood player has to go back to robbing people and trying to get at least 20 marks by the end of turn 30. So there's all kinds of shenanigans there. It gets wild and crazy real quick with so many things happening. I can't wait to play this game again.